How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer, back after a couple of weeks with Bryan Alvarez. We have not talked in a while, and we're going to be here for the next 2 hours talking pro wrestling, and we guarantee we're going to have an entertaining show because Jim Cornette will be our guest in about an hour. We'll be talking about WWE developmental. We can talk about history of wrestling, his upcoming camp, OVW, and so many other different things. So I'm quite looking forward to that. And Bryan, how have you been the last couple of weeks?
I've been pretty good.
That's good. We've got a lot to talk about. I guess first thing I want to talk about, is Crash Holly, Mike Lockwood, who passed away a couple of weeks ago. We have not been on the show since. And I know I read what you wrote about it, and kind of a situation where, I don't know, you saw this as like the first one that nobody cared almost. That's kind of how you wrote about it.
Well, I don't think I want to say that nobody cared, because that's not really what I meant. But I think that a lot of people, well, I guess they really didn't care. I mean, there were a lot of people that did care, but it just seemed like this was one of those deaths where he died and everybody was alerted to the fact, and then they went back to their lives like nothing had happened. And it was just, there was something about this one that I just couldn't even believe that it was so glossed over, like nobody really cared. So, I don't know, it was weird.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, you'd had the two deaths earlier with Hawk and Stu Hart. And, I mean, they were obviously bigger stars, but they were all people. And there was just tons of stuff written about all those guys, and then Crash died, and then it was just another news day.
But there was stuff written. I don't know, to me, the one that really hit me was in 98 when it was Louis Spicolli.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt that, and he had been on TV. Well, no, Crash had been on TV for a long time, but Spicolli was like, he was scheduled in a match on the pay-per-view like about a week later with Larry Zbyszko, which was a story in and of itself because Larry Zbyszko still cut a promo on him that Monday. But I just thought that it was like, I don't know, that to me was something, and he'd worked for all three companies, and there were a lot of people sad about it, don't get me wrong, but I felt that, that was the one where I started seeing people getting kind of numbed and accepting of the fact that, there have been too many deaths in wrestling. Friday night was the UFC pay-per-view, and it was, it had a terrible misfortune because it came like 12 days after the Pride pay-per-view, which we also haven't talked about on the show, and the Pride pay-per-view, I think, may have been one of the best pay-per-views ever.
I would say so.
I mean, just an all-star card, and the atmosphere, and it just was. It felt like, I think I wrote it. It felt like WrestleMania 17. In fact, I think on a comment board, or in comments that were sent to me, more than one person kind of said the same thing. To me, WrestleMania 17 is like the card of all the cards in and there've been a lot of great pay-per-views, that have been, but for some reason, I think as an all-around show, WrestleMania 17 stands out to me because part of it was because it was WrestleMania. I mean, and I don't know, there's something more memorable. I mean, When Worlds Collide was an awesome show, and Calgary Stampede was an awesome show, and WCW did many, many, many awesome shows, although not at the end, but they really did. But for some reason, I don't know if it was, Austin and Rock and the records and all that, and the Astrodome and the Electric Atmosphere, but to me, that was like the show. And then the sold-out Tokyo Dome, and all those great fights, and the tournament, and it was the show. It was the show to end all shows in mixed martial arts.
It was great fights that delivered, and even fights that people thought would go completely differently, like Silva's fight with Yoshida.
That was great.
It would just be a massacre. It ended up being an awesome fight.
I didn't expect a massacre. I knew one was possible.
Yeah.
You sure had that Kevin Randleman fight, right? I mean, that was the week before, and you said he's going to find a way to lose. And I'm watching this, and that fight was one of the, it was the weakest fight on the show, and he found a way to lose. So anyway, but Mirko Cro Cop and Nogueira. I mean, that was like the classic fight.
Oh yeah.
And
a lot of Nogueira's fights are like that because that was kind of like the Bob Sapp fight.
Yeah. Well, the man has guts.
Yeah.
The man is, I don't know how he's going to do with Fedor, though. I don't know what he could do different because just the way they match up, Fedor's going to get him down. And once Fedor has him down, he's going to put a whooping on him because I don't see Nogueira submitting him, which is, Nogueira's weapons, the weapon that he used to beat Mirko Cro Cop. And the performance of Wanderlei Silva, what can you say about Wanderlei Silva? All of the hype that is said about him being like, one of the world's scariest humans, it's like, boy, has he lived up to it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, he had a son that he had to do this fight for.
Yeah.
Young Thor.
I know that's his name. We had Survivor Series last week, and, Shawn Michaels certainly put on a show, and as did Steve Austin. I thought it was kind of like a one-match card, but the finish of that one match, the Raw match, and just the post-match and everything, it was really well done.
Yeah. In fact, I remember watching it, and I thought, this would be a good day for them both to really retire. But, of course, they won't. And I'm saying that wanting to see many more Shawn Michaels matches in the future. But still, it was so well done. And I think you wrote something about how it didn't seem like a lot of people bought it. But it almost seemed to me like a lot of people in the building did buy it. Or at least they wanted to buy it so bad that they acted like they bought it. Because he was cutting that promo and they were listening to him like, oh, we may not be listening to him ever again. And it was something else.
I think that they were shocked. I think they were stunned. Because I don't think anyone in that building expected him to lose. Yeah. But I don't... Stunned, you would think that they would think, well, he's going to go to SmackDown or something like that, and it wouldn't be such a big deal. This was kind of that stunned, like they had really seen something. Well, I think that they want to suspend their belief, especially after the performance at the end of the match, where you don't want to just go in there and just go, let's forget about all this. Yeah. What's interesting on that match was Shawn Michaels did basically what Bill Goldberg did in the Elimination Chamber. And when Bill Goldberg, and it was great when Bill Goldberg did it too, except that he lost at the end. Whereas with Shawn losing at the end, actually, with Bill, had he won at the end and won the championship, I think it would have been phenomenal. Losing, I think, took the edge off it. With Shawn, if he had actually won at the end, it would have been anywhere near as good as him losing at the end. No. And I think that's, the difference of understanding the difference in the ups and downs of different talent. A lot of people were saying, that they wished that maybe Van Dam or Booker T was put in that spot. But to me,
they would not have done nearly the job.
They would, it wouldn't. That was the spot for Shawn Michaels, and I think that a lot of it, the history between Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels plays into it, and just, I think in that spot for the guy to say, it had to be a veteran, and also the other thing,
it had to be a really great worker.
Yeah, but Booker's a good worker, but you're right. The thing with Shawn also, that super kick on Christian was like so awesome. It just was. It was just so awesome. Yeah. There's certain things about, but you're right. There's certain things about Shawn Michaels. I don't know. I just don't see how anyone could not recognize certain things about Shawn Michaels and his ability. It's like, it's just too glaring. But that's another story.
Well, he's far from the only one like that.
Who?
Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, I guess you're right. What else? Prizes as far as, since we haven't talked, as far as the UFC show to you?
No, not really. My predictions were horrible, but it was mostly because I didn't think about it, and I didn't recognize half the guys, like some of the guys in the early fights, so, yeah. That's
kind of the way it is with you. I mean, the difference with Pride is you know everyone. Yeah. And with UFC, it's, you know the main eventers, and even in this case, I think what really hurt the show was that people didn't know Frank Trigg. And
Frank Trigg comes in, and what do I know about Frank Trigg?
Yeah, I've seen him fight, and I expected a longer fight. I mean, I really did. I thought they were going 25 minutes, and it was going to be a wrestling clinic, and they did open the wrestling clinic, but it was over fast. And Matt Hughes just looked tremendous, and Tank Abbott. I don't want to hear anyone saying anything about Tank Abbott ever again. I just don't ever want to hear about him.
Like what? He's fat?
No, that's okay. No, it's just like he has the mystique, and he was over more than anyone else on the show, and it's like he's developed an aura, and it's like he's such a con. The guy who never quits. Okay, it's like did anyone remember years ago when he fought Maurice? I mean, I used to hear it. Well, Tank will throw down, he'll never quit. He fought Maurice Smith. And Maurice Smith threw like 2 leg kicks, and he quit. I mean, how many guys have you seen quit after 2 leg kicks? I mean, it's like, great. He's a strong guy. He throws a great punch, and when he's beating somebody up, he's impressive as hell.
Well, I saw Vitali get tap out when he was mounted.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying, but people aren't talking about him as being like this tough bar fighter who will take anything and all this, and Tank wanted out of that fight on Friday night, and then went and cut a promo about, why did they stop the fight? The doctor had just to clarify, the doctor was not about to fight for that cut. That they were going to let that fight go on, and Tank goes, but I can't see. And once you tell a doctor I can't see, they're not about to let you go on.
Yeah.
So they stopped the fight, and then he goes in there. Why did they stop the fight? It was only a cut. Oh my God.
When I saw that though, I thought, this Tank is a smart man.
Well, yeah, that is thinking on your feet as far as trying to preserve your reputation. He did do that.
Because you know what? As much as people say that he will not be re-signed and he'll never fight there again,
he may be.
I think of Dana White, and I think, you know what? They're going to do a rematch. Well,
considering they built the whole show in their commercials around him, so they don't have confidence in very many people.
Well, in the post-match and everything with, Cabbage flipping him off and Tank going after him and all the cops and everybody in the ring.
Yeah, they didn't want that, but that's...
They didn't want it, but you know what? That's what they need.
I know.
Rosen was going crazy, going, this is just the kind of BS we don't need. And I thought, what are you talking about? This is what you need.
Yeah, you're right. That is what they need. But they don't understand that. Which, they really don't.
Well, they need to figure it out.
Because, the biggest thing, it's funny because I'm reading, their big thing about, we're trying to make ourselves a sport. And it just reminds me, Campbell McLaren ran that company before. He was actually the first guy who ran the company for SEG. And I remember I was talking to him, this is early on, and I was talking about something to do with sports and all this, and he goes, the last thing we want is to turn this into a sport. And he understood. Usually when promoters say that, I just go like, all right, you don't know what you're talking about. But in his case, and at the time I wasn't so sure where it was going to go. But in hindsight, the thing is it's sports entertainment. It just happens to be real. And that's why I say that the only people who really understand UFC are the people who understand pro wrestling. Because if you look at the buy rates and when it was hot, it was when it was weird stuff, not when it was just, fights between these unknown fighters.
But I think the part of it is it's just the paranoia that if people see this as like some barbaric activity or something, we're going to get shut down or something,
Well, because that is what happened.
Yeah, but I mean, it's over now.
Yeah, I think that
there's a middle ground that you can go to where it's still exciting and you got all these personalities, just like Pride. It doesn't have to be this great sport that, like, none of my friends care about UFC. They all care about Pride.
Yeah, my friends are turning. My friends were all UFC fans, but after the last couple of Prides, it's really gone strongly in that direction. I mean, they're more Pride fans than they are WWE fans now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, you got anything special for this week's Figure 4?
Actually,
you do, and I don't, and I usually have something by now.
I actually don't.
Oh, you don't?
No, I really do. Actually, I have a road report.
You went to Tacoma last night.
Yeah, tame one compared to some of the past ones, but a road report nonetheless. Of the Tacoma Dome show last night that I went to. So.
Real quick.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the show?
I enjoyed the show, and it was a small crowd. I don't even know how many people fit in the Tacoma Dome.
A lot.
But there was not a lot there, suffice to say. In fact, they had 2 entire sections curtained off, and the 2 sections that were remaining were about half full. So this was not great. But they
don't draw anywhere. They don't draw anywhere unless it's Hidalgo, Texas, anyway.
Yeah. No pyro, nothing like that. The music wasn't as loud as usual. I don't know if it was too expensive to turn it up or what the deal was.
I don't know if they're not. I don't know about that one.
Yeah, they had 2 lighting stands on each corner, and like all the wrestlers, everybody worked hard. And the Dudleys match with Jericho and Christian. The Dudleys are a team that I watch them now, and I think they're stale, and I'm like, oh, here we go, another Dudleys match. But for some reason, this match was so entertaining because it was so old school, and they did all this comedy you never see on TV, like real old school comedy.
Well, that's because they were given they were given time, right?
Oh yeah, they had 25 minutes or something.
Yeah,
just an incredible length of time. And main event was Goldberg looked so much better than anyone ever gives him credit for being, and it was just I just watched the show and I thought, as horrible as you think some of these guys are when you see them on TV, sometimes they're still like worlds above most indie guys. Even the worst ones. And it's just an enjoyable show.
Yeah, I'll probably see the exact same show this coming Saturday night at the Cow Palace in San Francisco. So when we come back Sunday, I guess I'll probably just say what you just said.
Yes, we can compare notes.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the exact same thing. I mean, I'm sure it's going to end up being Goldberg. I'm not sure if Triple H is working. I mean, the last I had heard he was going to work. No, the last I heard he wasn't going to work. I take that back.
Maybe he'll get Flair. We didn't get Flair last night. I was sad.
Yeah, Flair had the weekend off. His son had a wrestling tournament. First tournament of the season, I think. I know it was the first tournament of the season because he just got out of football. It's amazing how I know this stuff. Anyway, we're going to start with Dan in New York City. Dan, what's going on?
Hey, how you guys doing tonight?
We're doing really good.
All right, I want to talk about a topic that's been present in the media, and you guys talked about it last couple of weeks on the show before the break, and the topic is steroids.
Yes.
I'm not really sure, how much information you can reveal or how much you actually know, but how bad...
I know more than I want to know on that subject. Take my word for it.
But, how bad is the problem in the WWE? Is it where the people who you think are doing it, it's pretty obvious, or is it where, people who even don't even look that big are doing it?
There are well, I'll just give you an example. Back in '91, when they had the trial, there were people who were doing steroids that nobody would have ever believed were doing steroids because everybody was doing them in those days. And I don't know that it would be that different now. I mean, I don't know. When I've talked to guys, the number that they throw out is 70%. But no one's ever done a real survey. No one really knows. But it's
too, and me and Dave have seen this all over the place. But a lot of fans have this warped perception of how big you have to be on steroids. They'll see a lot of guys and they'll assume, he's just working out real hard. Or this.
That's because they're not in the gym every day and realize what a body looks like when you work out really hard.
Yeah, I mean this is not easy to look like. I would say 85% of these guys look, and they're on the road. So I think the number is very, very high.
Yeah, but the one thing also, and a lot of people, it's weird about it because a lot of people will bring up certain guys that everyone knows are on it, okay? And they're always the ones who got their jobs through it, okay? Now, there are guys who would have their jobs, whether they took them or not, and they're on it, a lot of them are on it too. I mean, great workers. It's not like, in the 80s, one of the big things that people would always point to certain guys that shouldn't have really been in the major leagues that were there because they had a good body and people who were making decisions had fetishes for that. But a lot of the guys who were great were on it too. So, I don't know.
Now are there ever genetic freak scenarios? For example, Kurt Angle said a couple weeks back on some radio show that
Brock Lesnar was
100% natural. But a couple years back, Lesnar was arrested for steroid possession. But
no, it wasn't steroids. It was GH.
But, it was.
But he was. I think, and I don't know this is a fact. I think Lance Storm is clean and he looks really good. And I think that's what a extremely genetically gifted guy who trains very hard and diets pretty darn hard would look like. And then I don't know, Brian.
Anything more than that, you're pushing it.
Yeah, I mean, there are genetic freaks. I mean, the guys that are your guys that you see in a Mr. Olympia contest, or even the guys with the great bodies in wrestling, they would still look good without it. But
genetic freaks on it.
Yeah, but they wouldn't look freaky. They would look good. There's a difference.
What about a John Cena in the new WWE book? What's it called?
Unscripted?
Unscripted.
I just got that book.
He's never tried anabolics ever.
He has always claimed that, and I don't know. I don't know. I mean, he's told me that too.
But is someone who is doing steroids going to be so open to say, hey, I do?
Well, I don't think that anyone will say publicly right now that they're doing steroids. In certainly not in professional wrestling, except for an independent guy. I mean, he was a lot bigger when he was in California, starting his career than he is now.
But he was also eating 40 pounds of beef every week.
Yes, he was. And he was. Believe me. He changed his diet when he went to OBW and dropped a lot of weight because Jim Ross told him, we don't want you to be so big. And so, I don't know. That's what he says. So.
But is it true, once you're on the road, it's easier to maintain a body that was already big, whereas if you're coming in small to actually get big without steroids?
Yeah, I think it's easier. It's a lot easier to maintain than it is to actually grow when you're on the road or when you're training in general. Guys that started out really, really big, they can lose their edge a little bit by going on the road, but they can certainly, they'll stay big. A guy who starts out small and then goes on the road and then just balloons up, chances are that's steroids.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Okay, you're very welcome, Dan. And Jim Cornette is going to follow that one. Jim, how are you doing today?
Hey, how you doing, Dave?
We're doing really good.
Bryan, how are you?
Pretty good.
You know what? Kind of an interesting week because you got 4 guys signed this week, I guess.
Yes, as a matter of fact, Chris Cage, Poland, Mark Magnus, and believe it or not, Morris the Butler. Bowling Services in L.A. Is now with Ernest the Cat Miller in the WWE. And I saw what you read the other day, or what you wrote the other day. I think that Kenny Bolin and Nick Dinsmore will be here in 2013.
Well, I know Bolin will, for sure.
Bolin's a pretty close. Well, unless that cholesterol goes south, he may not be in here in 2013.
You know what's funny is like no matter how entertaining he is, I know they're never calling him up, but they just don't. I don't know.
It wouldn't be a stylistic fit.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. So how's everything going?
Very good, very good. We were talking earlier in the week, and I told you that besides the guys getting signed, and we're going into our Thanksgiving and Christmas break, so nothing major going on. But we have announced the next tryout camp we're doing in March. The last year's was, I thought, a success because out of 50 people, we invited 11 to continue here, and one of those has already been signed. Tank Tolan and Jillian Hall and Standing Thunder are doing real well, and so, next year we hope that we get even more applications so we can really try to dig in and find some people. Everybody always says, I want to be a wrestler, and everybody thinks they can be the greatest wrestler in the world, and I don't know why anybody wouldn't take this opportunity to get a 1-week audition.
Yeah. Not only that, but the training, I mean, you'll elevate your game greatly. Even if you don't make it, you're going to learn more in that week than you're going to learn staying,
Well, exactly. We've got me and Danny Davis, Rip Rogers, Tom Pritchard. All of them are in the ring with the guys, talking to the guys all week. It's not only in-ring stuff. It's conditioning. It's locker room etiquette. It's, everything about wrestling. And my opinion is, if you want to try to succeed in this business, that would be the place. Everybody's always dying saying they'll drive 800 miles to get a dark match where they get 5 minutes to show what they can do. But I was really, the one thing I was discouraged about last year, the campers that we eventually got were on the most part very good, but we didn't get a lot of great applications that I would like to have seen from people who had real experience in the business and, could use this as a springboard.
Before we go on, I want to talk a little bit more about the camp. And what's the dates for the camp? And basically give everyone, what the week is going to be and how they can apply. And this is basically for people who are wrestlers.
Well, actually, not necessarily. We had several people last year that didn't have any training, and we invited 2 of them, and one of them was able to come to Louisville and go to class here. So obviously, wrestling experience helps, and we're trying to find the best talent. But if we found somebody that was straight out of a professional sport or had a wonderful mixed martial arts background or was in tremendous shape and very coachable, that would be a wonderful thing. Mm-hmm. But you can go to our website, ovwrestling.com. The camp is March 21 through 26 next year, 2004. And basically, you make your way to Louisville. And for the $995, you attend the camp every day with, like I said, myself, Danny Davis, Tom Pritchard, the top developmental talent. You're instructed in the ring. You're instructed outside the ring. You do drills. The guys that do have experience can do workout matches. The best talent out of the class gets to work with some of the developmental talent, and everything is videotaped. So it's an opportunity for 1 week to see what OVW does, to see what the top guys in the program are capable of, and to see where you measure up against them. And at the end of the camp, then we evaluate everybody, and the people that we feel have potential for success, we will invite them to continue and take the camp fee off of the regular tuition. That's the thing about OVW. I've tried to stress it before. If you have $5,000 in your hand and you're 6'4" and weigh 140 pounds, or you're 5'6" and weigh 360 pounds, or you're 45 years old, we won't take your money. We'll tell you that you shouldn't do this for a living. We only try to take people that we think have a chance, a potential of success in this business, even if it's not with the WWE, even if it's a moderate level of success somewhere, if you got that much potential, we want to help you. But we won't try to basically run a fast food wrestling school and, take anybody that's got some money. We're not in that business.
Okay.
Is the camp where Mike Mondo came from?
Yes, as a matter of fact, that's one thing I was going to mention. Last year, people at first thought, well, is this just a camp and we'll never hear anything? We had 50 guys. We invited 11 to continue here. One of them's already been signed to a contract. Another, Jillian Hall and Standing Thunder are under consideration. Another half dozen guys are already on OVW TV and live events. And Mike Mondo, to be honest, is my favorite out of the whole bunch.
Really?
And then
Now, where did he come from?
Mike is 20 years old. He came from New York, and he'd been wrestling as live wire for some Northeastern independents.
That's right. Yeah.
But this kid is he is the most entertaining guy, and he wrestles like he's been a 15-year veteran. He just does the little things. His attitude is tremendous, and one of these days, he's a money scenario in this business some way. Nobody that entertaining and that talented can go by without getting some kind of job.
Did he get signed?
He is not yet.
Okay.
But I predict that before it's over, he will be. Because, like I said, he just came out of the camp, and nobody had ever heard of him, and all of a sudden he's on television. He's getting people to notice him. And I think in time, he's still 20 years old, so he's got nowhere to go but up.
Now, how is you've got a couple of news. Actually, you were going to have Ryan Sakota, who ended up. How long was he in Louisville?
He had a dinner at Red Lobster. No, he actually came through and trained here just after he was signed so that he could get ready to make his debut. We never considered him or Jimmy Yang part of the roster because we knew it was a transitional thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, because I just remember he was going to go to OVW, and the next thing I knew, he was on TV. You got Chris Mordetsky, who just came in.
What about Carly Colon?
Whatever happened to Carly Colon?
Carlos Colon has been here. The problem has been that I was overstocked on baby faces and kind of understocked on heels, and Carlos fit in the overstocked category, and I'm after the first of the year probably going to be debuting him on television. He's been here. It's just been a talent juggling position.
Okay.
Because that's another thing. In OVW, we try, even if a guy has a WWE contract, that doesn't mean he's automatically going to get pushed or automatically going to be on TV every week.
Nathan Jones.
Our talent,
Nathan Jones.
Talent and their performance. I'm sorry?
Nathan Jones.
Did you say something?
That was an overstock.
So I overstock, exactly. I book based on talent and performance, and I'll tell you, to be honest with you, the Damager, Danny Bam, now Doug Basham, Rob Conway, they were all booked in main events here before they ever got contracts. They got contracts, they were originally from here, so they were already positioned. Mark Magnus was the OVW champion before he got his contract. I try to make sure we have a nice mix and that everybody feels like it's a team instead of contract guys and non-contract guys.
Mm-hmm. And I'll ask you, as far as the guys that coming in, where do you see, as far as in your mind, time frame before you think that they would be ready, or are there guys that you have right now that you think are ready for WWE?
Well, definitely Nick Dinsmore.
Yeah, besides Nick Dinsmore, that's the obvious.
It's a given. You always go, besides Dinsmore. Dinsmore is obviously ready. Nova, I think, has been ready for quite some time. He's worked hard, he's in shape, and he's just been waiting for his opportunity. And I'm enjoying having him because he and Aaron the Idol Stevens are making a good tag team. And Nova's got a lot more experience than Idol, so he's trying to help him out. Before his time comes. The Disciples are headed to house shows, Bane and Seven.
Right, they're working a lot of house shows.
And actually, believe it or not, Nick Dinsmore is booked for December live events for the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
So heaven knows. Let's see. A lot of the guys here now, Johnny Jeter could certainly, handle himself quite well and have good matches were he to go to the WWE now. But he's 21 years old, and he's been a pro for like 20 months, and if it's this time next year, he'd be a whole lot more ready. So, a lot of the guys could go and work on the cards, but as far as really being ready to go and be the stars that they should be and will be, right now it's an inexperienced crew, and I wouldn't be pushing anybody at this point.
All right. Before we go to the calls, I wanted to talk to you about an interview that was done about a month ago on your show with John Laurinaitis. It was one of the best interview segments of the year, and I wish we had a tape of it, and maybe we will at some point. But how did you and John Laurinaitis like basically set the thing up? Because it was so close to real, and the people live certainly knew that. And I mean the angle that you do, it's really interesting. You know, for those who don't watch OVW TV, is that you actually, the thing with OVW that's so good is that the things that don't make sense, they attempt to make sense out of them. And one of the things that don't make sense is who gets called up to WWE and who doesn't, because, there are guys that get called up right away, and then there are guys that, there are much that don't, for whatever reason, based on, what they want at that given time. When they wanted two giants, they plucked two giants. They didn't, even though they were better guys. But the point is that, so you create a scenario where Johnny Ace or John Laurinaitis is the heel, who is picking some guys before they're ready because he kisses their butt, and then also keeps other guys down there that everyone knows are ready, Nick Dinsmore being the classic case. And you and John Laurinaitis had the big confrontation. And, it was just classic stuff. And it looked like he just enjoyed it, because I don't think he's ever been in such a great interview in his whole life.
Well, and of course, now, asterisk that he's been in Japan for the last 12 years. So.
That's true.
But the thing is that now, Jerry Jarrett, who I learned from watching Memphis television for years and years, always expressed the opinion that the best wrestling television is when people vent their emotions at each other, and the people know that they are venting their emotions at each other. And if you would look at the OVW fans' perspective, all of us, everything's great. Jim Ross is the guy who's in charge of the OVW-WWE relationship, and everything's great. And all of a sudden, when JR's schedule steps up and he becomes a grandfather and everything, along comes this punk named John Laurinaitis, who's this rookie wrestling executive, trying to make a name for himself in talent relations in the WWE. So the OVW fans are sitting there seeing this happen, and all of a sudden, maybe somebody doesn't show up, or, people get called up that in the OVW fans' mind wasn't deserving, and their favorites don't get a chance, and, John Laurinaitis just sort of starts taking the heat for this with the fans. So it was pretty well set up that when John Laurinaitis entered the Davis Arena, he was going to be about as popular as Michael Jackson is right now at a romper room meeting. So when Johnny came out, and the people just deluged him with his you suck.
But they did it. What's funny is the way they didn't do it like they didn't.
I think John,
okay, go ahead.
He was getting a nice reaction from the people, and it was heartwarming after he's been behind the scenes for so long. So he kind of vented some emotion. Mm-hmm. And of course, you know me.
Yeah.
I won't sugarcoat anything, and I don't want to spoil it for the people, but suffice it to say that a lot of our employees were seriously upset after the interview was over with, because they didn't know whether we were getting our deal cut. They didn't know whether John was going to go back and make JR fire us or pull him all the talent or whatever. It was that heated. But I love that type of thing.
Yeah, I thought that was...
At the very beginning, did you approach him long before he ever appeared and say, we're going to do this angle, we need a scapegoat? What do you think?
Well, actually, when you do something like that, you got a chance of being turned down. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you just go with it, then they pretty well have to go along with you.
That was a great line, though, when you said that, like, you remembered him when he was riding skateboards to the ring with Shane Douglas, right in the middle of that thing. It was funny because, it was just not a line that anyone was waiting for, and I could see, the people in the crowd who didn't know kind of were like, what's that? And the ones who did were just like, oh, that was the wrong thing to say.
Well, I knew it was going to come out of the closet sooner or later.
Yeah.
But no, it's really, it's something else that the OVW fans and the viewers of the show can bite into, and I think that's why that our viewers are awfully loyal. There may not be millions of them because we're not all over the country, but they're loyal because we don't smack them in the face with anything. We don't insult their intelligence. We don't just give them something without explaining why they're seeing it or who they're seeing. And, we attempt to make the program easy for them to watch so they'll keep watching it.
Real quick, because we're going to have to do a break right now. This year, what's your favorite match in OVW?
Damage and Machine for the OVW title, loser leave OVW.
Oh, okay, well, that was that August, right? August 2nd?
Television.
August 2nd, right.
That was the show of the year.
Okay, so for those of you, if you've never seen...
Cry in the audience, that's the show of the year.
Yeah. For those of you who've never gotten an OVW tape, August 2nd's the one to get. I would agree with that. That one, and do you know off the top of your head the date of what was it, I think it was Dinsmore and Doug Basham match?
2 out of 3 falls was April 12th.
Okay, that's the other.
All those tapes are available at ovwrestling.com.
Okay, so those are the two ones. If you've never got it, those are the first two to get. I just want to let everyone know. And the third one to get is the October 18th because it's got that promo. Real quick, is Lulu still around?
Yes, Lulu is still around. Nydia's sister, Nurse Lulu for bowling services. She actually has gone home for Thanksgiving and Christmas. She'll be back at the first of the year.
Okay, and in Tennessee, probably. I mean, that's the wrestling that you grew up on. Historically, what would you say? I mean, everyone knows that probably from mid-'70s on, the biggest star regionally for that, until the territorial days basically broke down was Jerry Lawler, and before that, obviously, Jackie Fargo. Could you tell people a little bit? One of the things about Tennessee wrestling, I think that, like, a lot of people, I guess maybe because it was one of the first places that I saw tapes of and things like that, but a lot of people that come from a lot of places really don't respect the history of Tennessee wrestling as much as, say, the history of St. Louis wrestling or Madison Square Garden wrestling or Los Angeles wrestling or Tokyo wrestling. And, to me, it's like, if it's...
Would you like to know why?
I was going to ask you why you think that is and bring that into people like a little bit about Sputnik Monroe and Jackie Fargo and a lot of people who were huge stars that a lot of people outside of your part of the country don't know about. And you know what? Historians... Memphis wrestling or Tennessee wrestling, Jackie Fargo, and Sputnik Monroe, and tell people a little bit about. I just want you to tell everybody a little bit about Sputnik Monroe and Jackie Fargo, and if there's other people, whether it's Billy Wicks or whatever, like the historical legends of that part of the country that really, in a lot of ways, don't get the publicity that, say, historical legends in other parts of the country get, and why you think that is.
Well, part of it, and I'll try to be brief because there's a lot of factors, but one of them was Nick Goulas as a promoter was not very well liked among the wrestlers and didn't have a real good reputation for payoffs. And so Tennessee was always looked down on as a crummy territory to go because he screwed so many people, just to be honest. But also, there wasn't a lot of emphasis. It was garbage wrestling before garbage wrestling was cool, but there wasn't as much emphasis on work as there was in the Carolinas, and Nick Goulas by no means ran a promotion as high class as Sam Muchnick's. But you got to remember that the people that got over in Tennessee were the ones that could go out and get over with the people almost immediately, either as heels or baby faces, because if it didn't get over quick, Nick would starve them out anyway and they'd leave. The ones that got over so good that they stayed over forever. And it was exciting wrestling, and it was fun wrestling, and it was even believable wrestling. But it just wasn't the scientific artwork that was the Carolinas, and it wasn't the Cadillac of sports promotions as it was in St. Louis. It was wrestling. And Jackie Fargo, in those towns like Memphis and Nashville and Birmingham and Huntsville, for a decade, Jackie Fargo drew tremendous crowds. Birmingham used to do 6,000 people a week. Memphis did 10 or 11,000 people a week with Fargo on top, sold out quite a bit. Nashville was huge, thousands every week with Jackie Fargo on top. So he really drew more fans for a longer period of time than a lot of people that are on your Hall of Fame list. And then when you talk about Sputnik Monroe, who came right before Fargo in Memphis wrestling was dead and was ready to go out of business when Sputnik Monroe came in and got over. And you told the story of the Observer that he got over with the black fans and actually stood up to the promoters to let the black fans sit ringside, or elsewise he was going to walk out of the territory, but they were turning the blacks away, and that was all his money.
And in those days, it's
Memphis wrestling.
As funny as it sounds, in those days, the blacks were only allowed to sit in the upper balcony, right?
That's right. There were a whole lot of empty seats on the floor, but the promoters were turning blacks with the ticket money away because there was no more seats in the balcony.
Yeah.
And Sputnik went out and said, "Hey, you don't quit doing this, I'm going to leave," because they were messing with his money.
Yeah.
So he did it, and he became a hero to the black folks. When he would walk down the Beale Street in Memphis with his hat and his feather and his cane and his three-piece suit, he'd have people following him like the Pied Piper.
Jim Cornette was actually at the Ring of Honor show a couple of weeks ago, actually about a month ago now, where Teddy Hart came in a cage match, and why don't you describe what happened, because you were actually one of the first people to talk to him after the match to tell him what he did right and wrong and where he screwed up, and how did he take all this?
Well, first of all, what happened real briefly, I came up the last bit of the cage match because I had worked earlier and I was trying to get dressed and everything. I come up just in time to see Teddy Hart climb to the top of this 15-foot tall cage. Had to be 15 feet if it was a nickel. and did a backflip out of the ring, onto the floor, onto these poor two guys, and just wiped them out, and the people went berserk. They were throwing babies in the air. It was the damnedest thing I've ever seen, and if he'd have laid there and been dead, he would have been a legend. But then all of a sudden, Teddy gets up, and he climbs the cage, gets back on the top, and does a backflip into the ring and sticks it. Boom! Perfectly, on his feet. And the people went, yay! And then he climbed up the cage, and he did a backflip off the other side and stuck it. And people went, yay! And then he climbed up the cage and did a backflip off the other side, and he stuck that. And you could have heard crickets chirping. People were going, is this guy a moron or what? He went, and then he proceeded to puke in the ring. Then he climbed up the ropes and puked over the side of the cage onto the floor, and then got back down and puked in the ring again. So by the time he left, he just got over like Luthez and Frank Gotch rolled into one, and by the time he left the ring, people were going, Jesus Christ, get out of here. I've never seen anybody get over that good and ruin it all for himself that quickly ever in the history of the business. So when he came back, I said, Teddy, do you realize what you've done? And I told him what he'd done is that he'd gotten over so great, and then he'd made the spectacular move that he made seem so mundane that the people actually got mad at him for doing it. And he said he had a concussion and couldn't remember it. And I said, well, hell, when I get back to OVW, I'm taking a tire iron and hitting everybody in the head. He's full of shit. Say that. I'm sorry, he lied to me. He had a concussion and he couldn't remember doing 4 20-foot backflips. So at that point, other people tried to reason with him. He almost got in a fight. The guy threw all of his stuff out of the locker room, and he had to sit around all night in the hallway, and Rob Feinstein was afraid somebody was going to beat him up because there were 2 more matches that had to roll around in his unnecessary puke. And he didn't see anything wrong with what he'd done. He thought everybody was jealous of him. He's a great young man, talent-wise, but he will never get a job because he's a complete, blithering, batshit moron.
Well, that was subtle enough.
Trying to sugarcoat it as much as I could.
Okay, we're going to go to phone calls. We're going to go to Prospect, Kentucky, and Jeff. Jeff, what's going on?
Hey, Dave. My first question is for you. When is Hogan scheduled to come back after his surgery?
Well, wait a minute. My first question is for you. You're in Prospect, Kentucky?
No, Connecticut.
Connecticut.
I was going to say, what are you, in my backyard? You spot? Dog's loose.
Okay,
Dog's loose.
Sorry, Jeff. Go ahead. When is Hogan scheduled to come back?
Yeah.
He may be at the Tokyo Dome January 4th, but that's not 100%. If not, I would say the TNA show in February if he does it.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Now, do you think when Hogan comes back, do you think he will work the TNA show, or do you think Vince will get back in his ear and convince him to come back for WrestleMania?
That's the million-dollar question. I don't really want to bet on that one because it could go. I could see.
WrestleMania.
I could see both scenarios. He
could either have one big show at WrestleMania, or he'll get a payday as big as his entire run in TNA.
That's for sure. If he wants WrestleMania, and it seems like everyone in wrestling wants to be on that WrestleMania, then I don't, even no matter what anyone says, I don't imagine him not being at WrestleMania if he wants to do it. He tells people he doesn't want to do it, but I don't know that I believe that.
Yeah.
So, time will tell. In March, we're going to know. We'll see if he goes and go through the match in February. He's committed himself pretty good to February, though. But, then again, he committed it to November 30th.
Anything?
What?
Did he sign anything?
No. He didn't sign. He didn't sign anything the last time he went to Vince. Is that amazing or what? I mean, Vince McMahon would put a guy on TV, push him so strong, main event at WrestleMania, and only sign him to a merchandise deal.
Yeah.
And a non-compete or anything. So no, Hogan's not going to sign anything, until the last minute, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right. My second question is for Jim. How does it hurt the morale of your guys when you have guys like Nick Dinsmore and Nova that are great wrestlers and have been there for a while, but the guys that end up getting called up are like Matt Morgan and Nathan Jones, and then they even start getting rid of established guys like Rhino and Dustin Rhodes?
Rhino's not gone yet, is he? I think he's wrestling.
That's
Although I know he's in the doghouse, but I think he's still there.
No, but that's what
Well, at any rate, to answer your question, obviously it's depressing, it's disappointing, but at the same time they realize that it's not a talent-based decision, that it's a decision based on whatever the heck the decision is based on, which nobody can figure out. So that's why that they don't get completely upset and hang themselves. because they know that eventually it's going to happen. They just don't know when.
And then even once they do end up getting called on the roster, they either end up getting jobbed at Alvarez on weekend shows that no one watches, or they're doing S&M with Shaniqua.
Yeah, but at the same time, they're also getting paid.
Now, I'll tell you what. You know what's funny is a lot of people in this business, and maybe and you know her and I don't. A lot of people in this business, their gimmicks are very similar to how they really are, and the successful people like your Steve Austins and Rocks, Ric Flair, are really, are really similar to their television persona.
Yes.
And Linda Miles, to me, I thought when she started doing this thing, I said, this is like
a departure.
This is not believe this. I do not believe that she's like this, and she's not very convincing to me doing this.
Well, she's grown into it somewhat, I've seen.
Yes, she has.
Before she left, Sin tried to give her some tips on using a cat of nine tails, so she'd be ready for whatever occurred. But probably not the greatest fit in the world personality to profile there.
Yes.
Now, finally, what was the decision behind WWE not mentioning Crash Holly on TV? Was it just because of the week before with Stu and Hawk, and they just didn't want to focus too much on that?
Was that for me or Dave?
Dave.
I don't know the answer.
But I got the gist.
I don't know the answer, and I've asked, and no one's given me a real answer. So I don't know. The question is, how come Crash Holly was never mentioned on TV?
Well, yeah, I got the gist of it. I didn't hear all the details. I don't know myself. I wasn't there, but to be honest with you, I didn't mention him on OVW television coming at the week after Hawk. And also, just to be honest with you, it's kind of a queasy subject because I don't want our program to depress people or to make people wonder what in the heck's wrong with wrestling. And when you see, unfortunately, so many obituaries of guys under the age of 45, then you get the casual viewer at home to start asking, what the heck's wrong with these people? There was a valuable memo that I did send out along with a copy of the obituary in the Observer to our guys saying, look, we talk about Kurt Angle was in developmental 5 years ago. Well, so was Crash Holly, and it's a little different story. Take heed of it and learn something if you can.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, thanks.
Okay, very welcome. Let's go to Ed in San Antonio. Ed, what's going on?
Hey, guys. Hey, Mr. Cornette. The question I have for you, I know you were talking about Teddy Hart a little earlier, is let's say he was to get signed and you get a phone call and they say that he's going to be sent down. What would you do to straighten him out? How would you approach that, or do you think it's possible?
Well, that is an awfully large hypothetical because the way he's going right now, he ain't going to get signed. But if he did get signed, he would come down here and he would be a part of the program same as anybody else. And if he did stupid things or things he wasn't supposed to do or things he was told not to, you wouldn't see a lot of him.
Has there been anyone just since you've been doing this that was really, someone who you thought had real talent and was just, whether it's stupid or lacking common sense and isn't around and didn't make it because of, not because of their physical ability, but because they didn't get it?
In OVW, there's been some guys with talent that didn't make it, but not guys with talent that did stupid things that I can recall. But the answer to your question would be Vic Grimes.
Mm-hmm.
Because when he was in Memphis, he just wasn't going to do anything other than his way, and he loved this hardcore stuff that ain't going to make you anything but a cripple, and he wouldn't open up to learning to work and tell a story for a wide audience, and he just wouldn't listen to people when they were telling him things, and that's what happened.
Didn't Robbie D challenge Leviathan?
Well, that's a different kind of stupid than I was looking for, but...
They had a disagreement while they were here, but I wouldn't call it a challenge. There were no promos on television or anything. It was just kind of a scuffle and all right, shake hands after.
You can go to OV Wrestling, not OVW Wrestling, but OVWrestling.com. It's info on Ohio Valley Wrestling, including in camp in March that we've been talking about, and we'll talk about once more before the show is over. Now I got that out of the way. Let's go back to Ed.
Those great TV show tapes.
Yeah. That's right, the TV show tapes. Now I do want to say, what? That's right. You can get those 3 shows or all the shows of OVW. If you want a subscription to them, you can get those. You get them every 2 weeks. You would get them by subscription, right?
Actually, subscription is once a month, and we do actually. If you order a specific show like August 2nd, you get all the August shows on the same tape.
Oh, okay.
Month by month, $19.95 a month. So that's like
that's a great deal.
$4 a week in some instances.
That's a great deal. So now I will say that
Most postage stamps. It's a cup of coffee, Dave.
I do want to say that my favorite show was the Dinsmore Damager because of the Danny Davis promo.
Yes, those two were neck and neck, and as a matter of fact, we reran or are rerunning the Dinsmore Machine Show this coming weekend. We're off for Thanksgiving, and we're rerunning that because those two shows were just neck and neck, totally different shows, but just the two best things we've done all year. Really proud of all those guys involved.
Oh, that's awesome. So if you order like a current stuff, you'll get that. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, you can order the November tape, and you'll still get that match you're talking about. See, you can't lose at OVWrestling.com. I'm telling you, folks, it's fun, it's easy, it's good for you.
Oh, man, I can't wait. I can't wait, even though it's a replay.
You would have thought I paid for this.
Oh, my God. That means that, because a lot of people don't know this, but Bryan knows this, and actually Jim knows this as well, that my week is that I watch Raw, and as soon as Raw is over, or about 2 hours after Raw is over and I'm about to go to bed Monday night, if Raw is really bad and I'm in a bad mood, I watch OVW wrestling and I go to sleep and I don't hate wrestling. And if Raw's really good, I go to sleep and I still don't hate wrestling. But that means that usually means, let's see, if it's this coming weekend show, that means that Monday's Raw, which is, it's right, a California one too. It's day before San Jose. Well, whatever it is, that means it's going to be a bad Raw. Anyway.
Your week is set.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Anyway, we're going back to Ed. Ed, what's going on? Ed, are you there?
Uh-oh.
Come in, Berlin.
Ed is gone? Well, you're gone.
Well, I'll ask the question then.
Okay.
A few weeks ago, the creative team came in, correct?
Yes.
I have two questions. A, what do they do when they're there? And B, does it seem like any of them have any clue what goes on?
Well, answering with A, they watch the guys have a workout class, do some promos, and just talk to them one-on-one and try to get to know them. And B, I can't answer that. No.
Where's your answer, everybody?
I'm being a wise guy here. They didn't really communicate to me. They enjoyed it. They had a positive time. They enjoyed the guys. That's the only thing they told me. So that's all I got to work on.
Okay. I want to ask you, as far as, when WWE guys come to OVW, some guys, and probably 80% of the guys when they come in, you talk about their background and things like that. I mean, are you giving leeway on the guys that you don't, and the two in particular are Dave Bautista and John Heidenreich that have been on TV in the last several weeks, and you totally do not acknowledge, well, I mean, John Heidenreich, he doesn't really have a strong character yet on WWE television anyway, and he's been working this Big Bad John on your show. But you don't acknowledge his WWE, and with Batista, you got him doing a totally different character and probably a better character. But is there any
Don't forget La Resistance when they had the tag belts.
Yeah, but La Resistance was doing the exact same character.
Yeah.
He just didn't mention they were tag team champions.
Nobody tells me what to say on Ohio Valley television except Jim Cornette. That's why I love doing it so much. I can go out there and call it like a chicken fight if I want to, but I don't. Secondly, in Big Bad John's case, I felt that he was more established here as who he was than there, and I wasn't sure what they were doing or where they were going, and I didn't want to misspeak or whatever, so I chose to ignore it because it didn't have a great bearing on what we were doing here. Do something that has a great bearing on OVW, then I will explain it in some fashion for our fans.
Like the
doesn't really matter, then sometimes I'll decide to refer to it or not refer to it.
Okay. Like with the Bashams and everything, why don't you tell everyone real quick about the birth of the Basham brothers?
Oh, geez, there's actually, I don't think there's any way to tell that story quick. It did prove one thing, that Danny Davis, my partner, calls me the Weasel. Because no matter what corner that I'm backed into, I can verbally weasel my way out with a logical, rational, reasonable explanation of the falderall that you just saw making sense. So I look at it as a booking exercise. Every time they take one of our guys and they spin them around and do a 180 with them, I can figure it out.
It's actually rare talent because WWE...
It's like doing, some people do crossword puzzles, some people do those little mix and match. I do booking.
Okay, now, just so everyone knows, I mean, you got a phone. The Basham brothers debuted on a Tuesday on SmackDown television.
Yes.
And you got, and they were, as Damager and Doug Basham and Machine, they were the number one feud in OVW against each other. And you got a call on a Tuesday night after the show.
After it happened.
Oh, by the way, we've debuted them on TV, and they're a tag team, and they're brothers now. And after you said, well, that's nice, You had to work your way out of that.
I did a little digging, Dave. I did a little digging, and I found out that the real reason was that Doug Basham, who hated Damage and was jealous of him, had gone to John Laurinaitis and said, hey, here's a way we can get rid of this son of a gun that neither one of us like. You just make him come up here and be my brother. And he'll be so humiliated wearing my name and having to be my partner and my flunky that he'll quit, and then we'll all be rid of him. But Damage only played along in the WWE because in OVW, by God, he still had the freedom to be the Damage guy, to do and say what he wanted. And John Laurinaitis wasn't going to hold him down. And by God, if he beat Doug Basham in OVW and sent him to the hospital, then he wouldn't have to team up with him on SmackDown.
And on August 2nd, they had a loser leave town match.
Exactly.
And anyway.
People were crying.
Yeah.
Before it was over with, the fans were crying. Doug was crying. Daddy Davis even shed a tear, which is about like squeezing a nickel till the buffalo farts. You know, it was a very emotional show.
Okay, we are going to go to Eugene in Chicago. Eugene, what's happening?
Hey, what's up, you guys?
Not too much.
2 questions about TNA.
Yep.
First, is it just me or has it gotten worse since Mantell came in? Like, I don't know, I haven't watched any of his other stuff, but nothing seems organized. Everyone seems to be feuding with everyone. I don't know. Is it just me or? I
think it's gone downhill ever since that night that they had the X Division tournament and they had the break. When they came back, I think that they lost momentum and lost focus, and it's, because they had probably their best show ever.
Yeah, I think there was like 2 before that. They were really good.
Oh, that was more than that. They had a string. They had a string there, and then there was a string of like 8 out of 10 shows that I don't think were good. And since it's been in, I will say I thought that Wednesday's show, because of AJ Styles and Abyss, was a pretty decent show. They had a great main event, but overall, yeah, I would say since Mantell's been there, that's the only show I would say was good. That was good. So yeah, I think it's gotten.
The thing with Styles, I mean, they're doing with him what they should have done like a long time ago.
Yeah, I just didn't like the Luger thing though. I think the Luger thing, although I think that he's totally recovered from it because of that great match Wednesday.
Yeah.
But the Luger thing was just. They trusted Lex Luger to get somebody over, and boy, that's a lot of faith in someone who didn't deserve it.
Pardon me for laughing. I was in that spot 12 years ago at 13, and it didn't work then either.
And my second question is for Jim. I was wondering if he checked out any TNA shows. What do you think of some of the guys like AMW, AJ Styles? Mine is the Vince Russo factor because we know how he feels about that.
Well, actually, to be honest with you, I have never watched a TNA show. 2 reasons for that. One is that they're on Wednesday nights, and that's our television taping night.
Okay.
And the second is I was about to delve into it and start taping them when Russo showed up.
Okay.
And I just refused to watch anything with Vince Russo's face in my house because I'm afraid of the damage I'll do to my TV screen.
Okay.
So, but now that I hear he's unemployed,
yeah.
I may have to actually check. Cause I've seen a lot of the guys when I did some TV for Burt Prentice, and they've got some very talented guys. I'm not knocking the promotion, and I think that now that they've cut the cord off their neck with the albatross, if he is indeed really gone, then that can only lead to success, in my opinion.
Dave, is he unemployed, or I think
he's not unemployed. He's still they're still paying him.
Okay.
But is he doing anything?
He is not doing anything right now that we know of.
Well, then at least they're paying him for his best talent.
All right, thanks a lot, you guys.
Okay, very welcome. Let's go to Bryan in Los Angeles. Bryan, what's going on?
Hello?
Hello there.
Yeah, I'd like to plug the WWE on Downet and IWWF. I'd just like to say that.
Okay.
And I'd like to talk about how Dave Meltzer is a fag.
Oh, that was really quick. Let's go to Jose in Detroit.
Oh, how quickly they turn.
I know. Jose in Detroit, you there?
Yeah. Baby face in this situation.
Hey, what's up?
Not too much.
Dave. Hey, just wanted to ask Jim Cornette if he's seen anyone that wrestles in any independent wrestling there in his area that's not wrestling in OVW, that he'd like to, have them over there and work with them.
Independent guys that you've seen around the country.
Before I answer that question, I want to ask, am I eligible to bet on wrestling matches on thegreek.com? Because I got a retirement fund sitting over here.
Yes, you are.
And guys have been.
That's right.
I might be checking into that later on. Yeah, I don't go very many places anymore, and I'm semi-retired down here in my Louisville cocoon, but I make some Ring of Honor shows. Like I said, I've done some TV for Burt Prentice, and I'm a big fan of Christopher Daniels. I think he's tremendous. I think he's an accomplished all-around talent. I like AJ Styles. The more I see him, I've seen him on a few of the Ring of Honor shows now. Abyss, I was a fan of when I was in Nashville for Burt Prentice. I think he's a good, bigger guy. Reminds me of Terry Gordy. Chris Harris I saw before he had started teaming with James Storm. He's a talented kid. And there's a few of the ROH guys. If they adapted their styles and smoothed out a little bit, which will come with experience because they're all so young, I think they've got a real chance.
Mm-hmm. Anyone specific?
I don't want to leave anybody out because I don't go that many places anymore.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to go to Keith in Chicago. Keith, what's going on?
Hey, how you guys doing tonight?
Doing really good.
It's definitely a pleasure talking to the great James E. Cornette right there, and I want to ask you some questions about being a professional wrestling manager.
Well, you certainly opened up strong.
Yeah, that's always nice. I wanted to ask you, it seems today, other than OVW, the way of the manager, I mean, you don't see a lot of managers in professional wrestling anymore. Is there a reason for this, or...
It just went the way of you couldn't. I told somebody one time when I quit managing in the WWE, they said, "When are you going to start managing again?" I said, "Well, when I get a set of fake boobs and I look good in a bikini, I guess."
What about Paul Heyman?
It's just the style, the flavor, the moment, whatever. That to be a manager, you practically got to be a girl, which I know it adds candy, but the WWF, WWF, whatever, was never a manager's territory, but, the managers, the Wizard, Albano, Blassie, made the TV tapings and talked to the guys, but they never really went to the shows. They weren't joined at the hip like the managers in the South were. So maybe that's part of why the style evolved that way, because they weren't as integral there as they were at other places.
But Ron, I mean, Heenan and Jimmy Hart and you and others, I mean, there were great managers in the WWE, and even Albano and Wizard and everything.
There would be sometimes I'd be at ringside on some WWE shows that I'd be going, geez, not because the match was bad, but because I didn't have anything to do. I was used to getting beat up, thrown all over the place, interfering, yelling, screaming, promoing, and I felt bad for taking a check sometimes because I wasn't really called on to do that much. Mm-hmm. I took the check. I didn't feel that bad. But, it wasn't as physically exerting. It wasn't as mentally challenging. I was not as much a part of the mix with the guys I managed as I had been in the NWA, and that's just the difference in the promotional style.
Right. Well, definitely, and thank you for your comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Keith, we're going to go to Kyle. Kyle, what's going on?
Hey, Dave. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing really good.
See that. Never mind. Not that I don't want to know. Hey, I missed the beginning.
I'm actually doing, really good, exceptionally good.
Well, are you fine and dandy?
Hey, Jim, how are you doing?
Well, I'm fine, but not particularly dandy.
Okay, well, sorry.
I was dandy last week, but not exactly fine. One time in August of '74, for about 15 minutes there, I was both fine and dandy, but nobody asked me.
I missed the beginning of the show. I'm wondering what you guys thought, or what you said on UFC, especially Baroni. Is there any news on whether or not he's actually going to get suspended or lose his license in Connecticut?
There is that decision hasn't been made yet, but I think that there is a pretty good chance that he's going to get fined and suspended.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, rightfully so, but I think the best thing for business, they should have had him come on that promo and just cut a promo on Landless and, get that heel character going. And, I mean... Bryan
was sort of hinted at this earlier. They're so afraid of that, but you're right. That's exactly what they should have done. And even Tank Abbott, okay, when he was trying to grab the mic and they were trying to keep it away from him. And granted, what Tank Abbott ended up saying when they did give him the mic in the dressing room later was, he was totally full of it. But it's that kind of thing. That's what they need in the show is these guys grabbing the mic and cutting promos on each other. In my opinion, but they're so afraid. To them, the problem with them is, to them, professional wrestling is a dirty word. And their whole thing is, well, we don't draw from wrestling fans. And they don't. And the reason they don't is because they think it's a dirty word. When they were doing big business, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, they did draw from wrestling fans. And I think that they need to, go in there and go like if you look at, they're all talking about Pride. And if you look at what Pride draws, Pride is drawing substantially only wrestling fans.
Right.
And
don't do anything in the U.S.
Yeah. And they're running away from wrestling because they think people will think that they're fake because they do it. But you know what? I don't know how many years it's been. I think it's been probably 5 years since anyone has ever said to me, I think UFC is fake. So I don't think they need to worry about that. But there's so much we want to be a clean sport, and I don't know that they can make it marketing wise as a clean sport.
Sport or a wealthy, dirty sport.
Yeah, they've got to be a colorful sport. You've got to have colorful characters. I mean, the booking, to me, whether it's UFC, Pride, or professional wrestling, or boxing, and that's the point, of all of those entities, is all similar in that you create scenarios where you get the public to want to see two guys against each other, and then you give it to them.
Yep.
And that I think it's that simple, and I think that the UFC people are just like anything that pro wrestling does is wrong because they're not real, and it's like, no, actually the pro wrestling people, more than the boxing people, have learned more different ways and different scenarios of getting this. And then you can't copy everything wrestling does, of course. You can't do the birthday cake in the face and things like that. But you don't need to run away from the ones that work.
Right, and the problem with UFC, too, and especially Joe Rogan after the Tank Abbott match, they're delusional if they think they're going to be mainstream sport, probably at least in this decade. I mean, after all this time and all this hype and all this trying to get through, they're no closer to where they were 5 years ago.
Actually, I disagree with you, because I've noticed, like, they do get newspaper coverage that they didn't get before, like for this show.
Yeah.
And the newspaper coverage was a lot more even-handed. Nevertheless, and Kyle, you know this better than anyone, when the Tyson thing with Bob Sapp took place a couple of months ago,
right.
You could see, in that one, you could see just how far true mainstream they're getting. What they're getting is like new reporters that want to cover it and know what it is. Don't call it cockfighting, but the editors still think that it's something that we should never give any credence to.
I mean, the problem, like my station, is you talk to the talk hosts who are going to be the opinion setters in the city, and they're still UFC what? What is that? And then you explain it to them, and they think it's barbaric. I mean, they're not going to get past that until those editors and those people in those positions are gone.
No, they're not going to. Until the decision makers, until there's a new generation of decision makers, and even then, if they're not over and they're not popular, they won't get over to the next generation. Because it's like when I was a kid, it was like soccer. When the kids grow up, soccer's going to be big. Well, all the kids like me grew up, and soccer's not big.
Exactly. Yeah, they still need a Steve Austin, a Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson to get them
absolutely
to the next level. One other thing, I think I've come up with a great money-making idea for him, though. I think next year for the Hall of Fame, they have to make the two people fight. Fight gets in.
That would be good. Everybody wanted to see an angle out of them because they know that like Ken Shamrock and Horace Gracie don't like each other. And then they get there and they're all respectful and.
Yeah, that killed it. I know. You wanted to pay to see them fight, and then they're like almost like Eric and Vince hugging.
Yeah. You know what? That's what it was. It was Eric and Vince hugging right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to say, Jim, I think the best promo you ever cut in your life was on that woman at DQ.
Oh.
Maybe Dave will play a tape of that one sometime when he's ready to go off the air.
I still laugh to this day when I think about that. Saying everything I wish I could say. So, thank you so much.
Okay, we're going to Mark in Waterbury, Connecticut. Mark, what's going on?
Hey, guys, how you doing?
Doing really good.
Always a pleasure to listen to your show. You guys put a quality effort in each and every week.
Thank you very much, God. Everyone's nice except for one person tonight.
That's right. I'm going to ask Mr. Cornette a question in a minute, but Dave, I was listening while I was waiting on hold, and that was an excellent explanation of how you draw money in the individual, especially the individual combat sports, but even in track and field. It's as much about developing the personality.
You're right. Track is a great example of that because nobody really cares about track, but when they can hype like two guys, and it doesn't matter the event. If they hype two guys in an event larger than life like this duel, and then people will really get into track.
Look at Tanya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan, the biggest grudge match ever in the history of skating.
That's not only is that a pro wrestling angle, but Hulk Hogan created it 2 years after it happened. Actually, it was the same year. I should take that back. But actually, they knew Hulk was going to do it, and that's where they got the idea. Anyway, Mark, go ahead.
Listen, I know how you feel. We all, the old-time fans, the death of the territories, wrestling will never be the way we ever liked it or, want it to be again. But my question to you is, with that having been said, when it's come time for you to retire to your island empire with the fortune I'm sure you've made in the business, do you see yourself doing one last run in Titan? Even if it's just an old-time manager gimmick, which won't have been done in years by the time
you do it, it'll be this novel idea.
Well, never say never, but I've actually already beat you to part of it. I've already retired to my island empire, only at the valley.
Well, whether it comes or not, we'd love to see it. I mean, you gave us a lot of great memories in the 80s for those of us that watched you.
Well, one of these days I'll get one of those John Madden tour buses and feel like traveling again.
All right, you guys do a great job. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thanks a bunch, Mark. We're going to go to Jeff in Burlingame. Jeff, what's going on?
Hey, Jim, longtime fan.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing?
Good. I want to ask you, what are your favorite matches that you show your students to teach them psychology, and how do they react when they see some of those?
I'm having a hard time hearing what were my favorite matches. What?
What are the favorite? When you show tapes to the students, what are your favorite matches to show them to teach them what ring psychology is?
Oh God, we've got a lot of training tapes, and there's a lot of Flair on there. There's Flair and Terry Funk. There's Flair and Ricky Steamboat. There's Flair and Barry Windham. There's a great Jerry Lawler and Terry Funk match from Memphis from years ago. There's some good tag team stuff with the Rock and Roll and the Midnight Express. There, just a little bit of everything. I try to throw a lot of older stuff in, even Buddy Rogers and Pat O'Connor, just so the guys can get an idea of how things have evolved and, what has stayed the same. And, so Briscoe and Dory Funk Jr. and just, anybody that's ever been important in this business, I encourage them to see or to read about.
As far as that goes, have you done any quizzes? Because I remember when you were doing the quizzes and everything, and do you know these people and that type of stuff with the new.
Actually, I haven't done very many quizzes over the past couple of years because it ticks me off how many people don't know what they're talking about. But I do give them a lot of written information, which then it's up to them. It's like when you go to school, it's up to you whether you do your homework. It's up to you whether you read the textbook. You want to learn anything? Okay, fine. I'll give it to you. And if you don't take advantage of it, then that's up to you.
If I asked you who you thought was the most dedicated, best student, and you don't have to name, you can name 3 or 4, but that you've had in the last couple of years, who would be the top guys on the list?
It would be hard to beat Rico, John Cena, Tim Basham, Conway.
Okay.
As far as dedication, and it's hard to beat Rico as far as just being a dependable son of a gun. Rico was a gem.
I want to go to Guy in Mission Viejo. Guy, what's going on?
Not so much. How you guys doing?
Doing really good.
I'll make this quick. I just wanted to ask Jim about particularly your babyface run with the Midnight Express in late '88 and in '89, and how that came about and how your approach was to being a babyface manager, since there haven't been, besides yourself, very many entertaining ones in the past.
God, I haven't got time to tell you on the program how it came about, but the approach I took is basically simple. If you're on television and you say stuff that the fans want to hear and would like to be able to say themselves but don't have the podium, you're going to be popular. And that's all I did. I just said what everybody wanted to do. I want to put my fist down that no good, stinking, Paulie Dangerously throat and shut him up once and for all, and people said, yeah! And that's all there is to it. Being a babyface was a fun little exercise for me.
Okay, well, that's all I had. I've really enjoyed your work over the years, and thanks a lot, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jim, before we go, I want to ask you, if you had to name someone who came to OVW and, was a disappointment where they came in and you thought, this guy's going to be money, and, he didn't stick it out. Are there any ones that come to mind that kind of fit that realm?
There is, but, boy, he's such a nice guy, I don't want to embarrass him.
Okay.
Because he's a great athlete and a great guy, and, I wouldn't want to call his name in conjunction with that, but there was one that shoulda, coulda, but just wasn't.
Okay.
But hey, you never know. One of your viewers tonight may be in the next tryout camp, March 21 to 26, 2004. They may be on the OVW roster. They may be the next WWE champion.
Well, maybe not in a year.
But they'll never know until they find out.
Yeah, that's true.
No, like I was telling you in the break, I'm tired of guys, real quick, tired of guys going to wrestling schools and get ripped off. Tired of guys saying they drove 1,000 miles round trip for free for a dark match for 5 minutes. The camp at ovwrestling.com, you can find out how to apply. You get a week-long audition for OVW. We've trained 30 guys that are on the WWE roster now, and 10 guys with WWE contracts had their first lessons in OVW and walked onto the WWE that way. You can't say it doesn't happen. Go apply to the tryout camp. It's a cheap way to find out whether you got what it takes, and you could be next.
Okay. Just want to thank Jim Cornette for coming on tonight. It was always entertaining with Jim Cornette. We'll have him back at some point in the future, I'm sure. And, of course, we'll be back here next Sunday night.